Radio. Welcome to the Forefront Radio. I am your host, Afiel Levi. Today's episode is called Players Get Burned. Today's episode is called Players Get Burned. Make sure y'all share the room with at least 10 people. Make sure you share the live with at least 10 people. We're going to go into a good discussion. The discussion is called Players Get Burned. Y'all already know what time it is. Tap the screen. Make sure you share this room with at least 10 people. We're going to go into a great discussion. Let's talk about your friendly neighborhood Glenn, your friendly neighborhood Wonder Woman. Let's talk about all these brothers that always get caught up with the Red Lobster, the Krabby Patty, the troglodyte, the cave woman. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Share the room with at least 10 people, y'all. Share the room with at least 10 people. Let's talk about it. The name of this episode is called Players Get Burned. Players Get Burned. How many stories have you heard of black men, Latino men, that got caught up dealing with Anglo-Saxon women, Edomite women, and these same brothers got caught up in a lot of evil stuff? I know a lot of stories. I can share with you a lot of stories, and then we'll go into some scriptures later on. But I want to ask y'all in the audience, have y'all heard of stories where brothers would get with Caucasian women and they end up being to their detriment and not their benefit? Sister Ari said, where do I start? Sister Ari, come up on stage. I'm not sure how many followers you got on TikTok, but let's get into it. Let me see if I can add you on here. All right. Click the guest. I just sent you an invite. Thoughts on this particular subject. Welcome to the Forefront Radio, Sister Aria. How you doing?
Shalom, hey brother. Oh man, where do I start? Just seeing, for example, I'll say celebrities like, Kanye and just ASAP Rocky, how they all chase after the Kardashians. It's okay, Mocha. And just seeing how their lives turned out, and it just shows you that, why do you want to chase after these kind of women, knowing that you're going to get burned at the end, you're going to lose everything. So that's how just that's for example. But far as me, for example, me growing up, I grew up from Compton, moved to Norwalk, and it's probably probably say percent like 30 black people there, and they did not like the sisters. They did not like. They'll go after like women that was like more outside their race. Okay, it's okay. So it was just, how can I say it? It just made me I would say, I don't want to say this, but not like our brothers because of how they treated me and other sisters, because how they like other women outside our race, and come to find out, you know, they got burned. I can give another example. I have a cousin, he was married to, Edomite woman, and we told him, he shouldn't, he should watch out, and come to find out that he doesn't even have custody of his kids. His kids are all in Germany, and he's had to pay child support now, divorce and everything.
So wait a minute. He was dealing with a woman, ended up getting with her, and then that woman took all his kids and went to Germany?
Once they got a divorce, and now like he has to pay child support, and she lives in Germany with the kids live there with her. Well, her family, his mom tried to warn him, but look what happens. Because they thinking that, white is right. If you date a white woman, you hit the jackpot, and turns out, no, that's not the case at all most of the time.
Mm-hmm. So why do you think some of these brothers get caught up in dealing with these troglodyte women?
I think
And
it's
sisters
dealing
too.
with
Why do
the
you think some
it's.
sisters get caught up in it?
Oh, I can. You know what? I feel like this is for me too. I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna tell you guys basically. What happened with me was I used to be, I used to be an Edomite lover. I ain't gonna lie. I used to really love white boys because of my experience, what I went through growing up. Like I was saying, how the brothers did not like black women, how we got talked about, and to a point where and plus seeing what my mom went through and with her relationship, I was like, oh, I can never date a brother. I'm not about to, mm-mm. So I used to just, prefer white men.
So what changed all that being in this truth and knowing that you're a Hebrew?
Oh, it opened my eyes because, like I say, I grew up, as a Jehovah's Witness as well. I didn't know better. I didn't, know none of these things. It's still new to me because I barely came into the truth probably like 2 months ago. So I'm
Hmm.
still learning a lot and learning the history of like how the Edomites and other nations treated our people. And
Hmm.
and I thank God I didn't get, married to one because, or even had a relationship with them. But it just opened my eyes to realize that, I have so much more to learn still as I'm going on this journey to know I'm a Hebrew. But yeah, that's
Okay.
just my story. Just because I remember on the track team when they literally used to say, "Oh, Ario, you and your white boys, this and that." And when a brother is telling me that, "Oh, you don't even know what they did to our ancestors and this and that," I'll make excuses for my well, like they're not them, but come to find out, like this stuff goes really deep, and I just thank the Most High that He woken me up to know who I am and to be in His truth and to learn more so I can teach my daughters as well. Because on top of that too, they went to genetics. Like the movie Get Out. As I'm looking back on my now, it makes more sense why they make these kind of movies because it's true, it's happening, but they're not gonna talk about it as much.
Okay. Okay. So for a lot of players, a lot of sisters as well, they get caught up in this thing, interracial dating, right? And they assume because of negative experiences in the past or negative experiences with their own culture that these new relationships will end up to their benefits. Okay. Brother said, looks like a succubus in the background. That's exactly what it is, bruh. I'm showing you that the demon looks nice on the outside. You understand? The demon looks nice on the outside, but in reality, it's much different. Reality, you dealing with a demon and you don't even realize it. You see what I'm saying? So I'm glad that the brother noted that. But yeah, that's exactly what it is. Go ahead, sis.
And also, too, I don't know if you guys ever heard about this story of this. It happened in Florida, where this brother was dating I think she was an Instagram model, and I guess she called saying that she stabbed her boyfriend. I know you guys must have heard this story. This happened, I'll say, probably last year. She was an Instagram
Mhm.
model, and she killed her boyfriend. This was in Florida. I don't know if you guys ever heard about this story. No.
Yeah, elaborate on it.
Um. Hey, okay, but basically the story, she called the police saying that she stabbed her boyfriend. They were arguing, and first, she didn't go to jail for it, but she found out to be guilty. But it took them a while to arrest her, and they arrested her in Hawaii on vacation with her, with her father, and she got arrested. But the thing that also tripped me out too with him, you know, when I came across stories about his Instagram, him, not Instagram, but TikTok, that he would bash sisters. A lot of sisters didn't want to support the story because they seen they seen him just talking bad about the sisters, how he didn't like black women or anything like that, and how he praised on these white women. But stories were told that the woman that he was with, his ex-girlfriend that killed him, used to beat on him, call him names and everything. But on his let's say Twitter, excuse me, I'm gonna say Twitter, he would talk like bad about the sisters though. But you dated a white woman that carried herself in an ignorant way, and look what happened to him now. He's dead. So it just shows you that just because you're white, just because how the media portrays them to be, doesn't mean you're gonna get the fairy tale lifestyle.
Hmm. That's exactly facts. Thank you for sharing that, sis. I appreciate you sharing that because that's a true incident. A lot of people think that the grass is greener on the other side when they think that the individuals that they're dealing with could be precious to them, when in reality that's not the case. Okay, reality turns out a lot different. They think they're getting an angel like this. They think they're getting an angel like this, but they really getting a woman riding upon a beast. You understand? They're getting that great red dragon. You understand? So they thinking that she's a beautiful princess when in reality she's a witch that's gonna burn your house down. Thank you for sharing that, sis. I appreciate that. I really do. You have any other stories or incidents of situations where brothers get caught up trying to be a player and they end up dating these women and they end up getting into bad situations?
Oh no, I don't. That would be it.
All right. Thank you for sharing and everything. I'll drop you down. We'll invite somebody else up as a guest and they can share their thoughts and experiences on the matter. All
Thank
right.
you. It
Thank
was
you
a
for
pleasure.
joining us. You're welcome. Talking about, ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about players getting burned, players getting burned. Make sure you share the room with at least 10 people. If you have a story of interracial relations gone awry or gone bad, jump up on stage, hit the guest icon, and come up on stage and share the different stories that you have heard of. You're more than welcome to jump up on stage. We got Precept Me. You want to jump up on stage, brother, and share any thoughts you have on the topic? Let me send you an invite real quick. So the topic is players getting burned. We're going into the history of. Somebody said, "Is this JJ? Who is JJ? Is JJ short for something? Who is that? I'm not sure what you mean by is this JJ. Put a comment on what you're referencing. All right, so let's get into it, y'all. We're talking about brothers that or sisters that ended up swirling. What's the word they call it today? Okay, you can't come up. Got you. No worries. They call it swirling today. They call it divesting. They call it, what do they call it? They call it a lot of different funny words, right? Back in the day when I was a kid, I heard it was called jungle fever. They was singing Michael Jackson songs and they were saying, "Oh, you got jungle fever," you know. Precept he said, "I stick to jungle fever." Exactly, you know. That's what it is, So we're getting into talking about stories and incidences that you know of brothers or sisters that got caught up in interracial situations, swirling, jungle fever, divesting, whatever they want to call it nowadays. It's actually a sin according to the Bible, and many people don't read the Bible, nor these simpleton pastors out here never teach the Bible. They say God's laws are done away with, but we can see the repercussions of what happened in a community when people break God's laws. I saw it with my own eyes, okay? Uh, Somebody said, "You sound like a young man I met. He does a podcast." Oh, okay. I have a podcast. It's called The Forefront Radio. I'm Raphael Levi, so I'm not JJ. But I appreciate you tuning in to listen and everything. Share the room with at least 10 people. Share the room with at least 10 people so that way they could jump in on the conversation. Peace and blessings to the 12, all of you. Much appreciated for those that are listening. Share the room with a lot of different people so that way they could join in on this conversation. I know in the States for some of y'all it's pretty late or early in the morning. For me, it's only 11 a.m. here where I'm at in Africa. But I know for some of y'all in the States it's very late. So just share the room with at least 10 people so that way they could join up on this discussion, just listening in. The Forefront Radio started in 2020 as a podcast for the diaspora. We teach that blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans are the lost tribes of Israel according to the Bible. She said it's 4 a.m. Wow, all praises. Up early in the morning. That's right. And I'm glad that you tuned into this room. She just said, "Oh wow, it's 2 a.m. in the AZ." All right, so I'm tapping into the almost in the West Coast area. Okay, AZ, California. All right, 4 a.m. That means you're on the East Coast, huh? So I'll tell y'all a quick story. I had a former best friend of mine. This was in my 20s. I'm a lot older than in my 20s, but back in my 20s, I had a good friend of mine. I'm not going to mention his name for privacy reasons, but he passed away. The day before he passed away, I was hanging out with him. I was spending time with him. And I was doing some sort of event. I think I was either at church or something. But he called me out the blue. He said, "Hey, I need a ride, bro. Can you come pick me up?" So now the night before, right? The night before, he was hanging out with some white girl. The woman was a worker at a nightclub, basically a adults nightclub. Y'all know what I mean when I say adult nightclub, meaning there was some dancing and some clothes was not in the building. Okay, so he went out there and met up with this. I think she's Armenian, one of them. ARM. I think it's either Armenian or Armenian, like kind of similar to them Kardashian sisters, right? But she didn't look like a Kardashian. She was more like Olive Oil off of Popeye. Y'all know that show, that TV show Olive Oil with Popeye the Sailor Man? She looked like that, but with like brownish, blondish hair, right? So anyways, he's dealing with the woman, and I was like kind of perplexed by it. I was like, why he dealing with her? Like all these beautiful black women, all these beautiful Hispanic women, all in the school that we went to. Like we went to during high school. We were really popular because we were the only brothers that was in a predominantly so-called Hispanic school. So we were kind of like the popular characters in the school. You know, we did music. We were a part of the talent shows. So a lot of people was trying to engage with us in the entertainment world, nightclubs, bars, things of that nature, right? So anyways, we graduated out of high school and he met this Caucasian girl and he started dealing with her, you know? Like first I thought it was on a friendship level, but I knew like you outside at night past 3 a.m., that ain't no friendship. You understand what I'm saying? Y'all know what I mean by that. So anyways, it's like Saturday afternoon. He called me out the blue. He's like, "Hey, bro, I need a ride." So I'm like, "All right, I'll pick you up. What's going on? You doing all right?" Literally, I pick him up and I get a flat tire. I should have took that as a sign from God. I should have took that as a sign from God, y'all. I'm telling you. I go to pick him up. You know, he left from dealing with these Caucasian women. It was a girl and her sister. I'm not going to say their name for privacy reasons, but they were Armenian. So you know they was from like those regions in Eastern Europe, like Azerbaijan, Czechoslovakia, Russia, all that kind of stuff, right? Armenia and all of that, right? Like those Syrian type, right? So straight up, the time that I picked him up, my car caught a flat tire. So he assisted me in fixing the tire and everything. And we went home. I dropped him off home. And I was like, man, it's strange that I caught a flat tire after picking up this brother from him, you know, dealing with this Caucasian girl. So anyways, long story short, the very next day, I'm telling you, the very next day, I get a call from my younger brother while I'm at work. I was working at a call center at the time. And this brother tells me, "Hey, such and such got shot." I was like, "What?" He was like, "Such and such got killed, man." Man, I ran out of the building. I told my boss, "Hey, I got to go. My brother got shot," because this man was really close to me, like a blood brother. So when my physical brother called me and said such and such got shot, I was shocked. I was perplexed. I was like, I felt so heartbroken by the situation, you know? So long story short, the brother passed away, funeral went by and all that. But till this day, I always remember that the last time that I saw him, he was interacting with a Caucasian woman, y'all. That was the last time I saw him. The night before he was with an Edomite woman. The day after, that was it. Now, y'all just saw the sister that was up here before, Sister Ariel. She came up and said that she knew of a story in Florida where a young man was dealing with a cave woman, dealing with a troglodyte, a good old American girl. And the very next day, next thing you know, he's on the news because the woman had used something to harm him, and the brother unalived through it. So I'm sharing these stories for brothers and sisters so that way you can see the grass is not greener on the other side. I'm not saying things are always going to be perfect with your own culture, but you're less likely to be unalive dealing with your own culture than dealing with another culture. And I'm going to show that to you in the Bible too as we go along in this podcast. So now I'm going to share another story. I had a brother that I was cool with, Hispanic brother. He was so-called either Mexican or Honduran. I can't remember. It was so long ago. But I was in my late 20s, like 22 or 24. And this was the second instance where now this Hispanic brother was talking to a Edomite woman, a Caucasian woman, okay, a woman of Greco-Roman descent. And while me and him used to hang out, she would smile in my face. She would say, hey, how you doing? And all of that. But because the brother was light skinned, she assumed that he was Caucasian when really he was a Latino mixed with black. But every time I left the house, this woman would talk so much smack, so much evil about me to this man. So now he was dealing with a lot of stuff. And he said to me, hey, bro, I love you, man. You my brother. But this girl right here, man, there's something wrong with her, man. She don't like black people. She racist as hell. She just always speaking evil about you and all. And I said, damn. But every time I see her, she's smiling in my face saying hello. So you mean she faker than a $3 bill? He's like, yeah, bro. I said, man, you should leave her alone. The brother didn't take my advice. And guess what? Night after night after night, this brother would stay getting into fights with this girl. One day she would be cool with him, and then the next day she would call him all type of profanity, all type of evil terms, basically calling him the N-word to his face, even though he was Latino, okay? Calling him a spick, calling him all type of derogatory stuff, okay? So they look like they angels on the outside, but really on the inside they really demons, okay? So the brother still dealt with her, and guess what ended up happening? One night he gets into a major argument with her, and he meets another woman, also same phenotype, Edomite woman. He ends up leaving that woman that he was with to go date the other woman, drives all the way down. He gets a ride from the woman, and guess what? He ends up leaving because the woman's ex-boyfriend was there. So now the ex-boyfriend pretended to be cool with him, okay? And they had a conversation, they had a couple drinks and stuff like that. They were chilling. So then this Hispanic brother decides to allow this man to give him a ride back to the house. Because he was like, man, I don't feel right about this. Let me go back home to my woman, blah, 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 blah. So I'm thinking it's going to be something peaceful. Next thing you know, I get a call saying that my friend was unalive, y'all. You can't make this stuff up. I get a phone call and I'm like, yo, what happened? They said he got into an argument with the ex-boyfriend while they were drunk, got into an argument with the ex-boyfriend, and the ex-boyfriend pushed him out of the car on the highway in Atlanta on 285, and his head cracked on the road. Literally, I rushed to the hospital, y'all. His head was so swollen. The doctors had him on life support. I was screaming to the doctors, hey, he's still alive. He's still alive. But his parents that was there, his relatives, they couldn't afford it. They were like, we can't hold him on life support. Let's pull the plug. I'm looking at his face. I know he could hear us because guess what? While I was looking at his face, I saw tears coming down his face. Even though his eyes was closed and his head was swollen, I saw tears coming down his eyes. You understand? And I was like, look, he crying. You don't see he's still alive? And they was like, nah, that's just a reaction when people are about to die, their bodies give up on holding factors like urine and fecal matter and all of that. And I was like, nah, you can't make this stuff up. So literally the brother died. So that's my second instance, right? Seeing that whenever you deal with these other nations, something bad always happens. Okay, something bad always happens. All right. Somebody said, Sister Deja said, wow, my friend's mom is just like that. Same spirit, same appearance. She was always low key, kind of scary. Exactly. Exactly. These individuals will appear to be an angel at first, but in reality, they hide in demons, man. I'm telling you, don't mess with these other nations. The God of the Bible warned you not to deal with these other nations. I know it's a touchy subject because people feel, oh, love is love. Let's be free. Let's do all of this. But nah, don't be a player no more. Players get burned. I saw it with my own two eyes. I got two instances where I saw my own best friends that was with me end up being unalive. So my stupid ass, did I take the advice? No. I remember one time I was working at a job and I said, you know what? Let me try talking to a white girl. Let me try this. So I end up go, shalom to you, Coco. I end up talking to a white girl. And immediately after me talking, I started a new job. So I started trying to flirt with the girl. Hey, how you doing? Blah, 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 blah. Listen, I ended up losing that job immediately. I end up losing that job immediately. Okay. So what I'm showing you is that the Most High always places judgment on his children. Think about it, y'all. If all nations were supposed to come together and love and be free like they imagine it to be, or they try to deceive you in this world to be, why is it that in America and in Europe, you hear of countless stories where brothers or sisters get caught up in these interracial situations and it end up being horrible, y'all? Think about it, y'all. Back in the day, right, there was a brother that literally just whistled to himself, and he was accused of trying to flirt with a woman of Eurocentric persuasion, and they unalived him. Y'all know there were a lot of stories in America of that going on, where they just blamed it and they said, oh, that evil black man, he looked at her funny, and all the city had got up. All the city had got up to do all this wickedness. There we go, Emmett Till. Somebody said, here we go with another story. Listen, just stay in the facts of history of what happened to people in America is not anything derogatory to you. It's time to grow up and be calm enough to be able to hear information without being emotionally tied to the information. An adult, a person that's a grown-up, listens to information from the perspective of trying to learn and grow. Only children banter and say, oh no, you're going to say a bad story. Why are you saying that? It's so scary. Stop being a child. Don't come on the TikTok live to be rude or obnoxious. Just listen. That's all you have to do. Listen. Because guess what? Many people are deceived by their own vain opinion. Is it going to change what happens to people in society? No. Is it going to change what's written in the Bible? No. You understand? Countless stories. Somebody said, you act like a Christian. Do you not know that we all come from Adam and Eve? All right. Let me help you understand something. Miss Thang that made the comment. I am not a follower of Catholicism. I'm not a follower of Baptist, Pentecostal. In fact, I despise religion because guess what? Religion does not align with the Bible. So no, I'm not in Christianity. I follow the laws of the Bible, meaning what? The Bible is black people's culture. If you didn't read the Bible before, you read at the very beginning of the Bible, there was a river that flowed into Ethiopia from the Garden of Eden. That's in Africa. The laws of the Bible, for example, they come from the Hebrews, the Jews, the Judah. Okay? And guess what? When you read history, you find out that the judicial system comes from the Bible. Eurocentric delusionalists stole our records and inserted themselves in it to make you think that Jesus was white. That's a lie. That God was white. That's a lie. That the angels were white. That's a lie. And the people of the Bible are Yiddish Germanic people when that's a lie. They converted to Judaism during the time of Herod, who was an Idumean, and they also converted to Judaism and Talmudism in the 6th and 7th century under the kingdom of the Khazarians. So we know that they are Russians, we know that they are Yiddish, we know that they are Khazarian, Ukrainian, Belarusian, Polish descent. The people of the Bible actually are the same people that you call Negro, the same people that you call Black, Hispanic, Native Indigenous. They're actually the people of the Bible. Somebody said, lies, lies, God is watching you. Watch this. This is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 14, verse 2. So now, is the Bible a lie, or is this true information that your teachers never told you in school? Deuteronomy chapter 14, verse 2. Judah mourneth. What tribe did Jesus come from? The tribe of Judah. What tribe are the Jews from? The kingdom of Judah or Judea. Judah mourns, and the gates thereof languish. Listen to this verse. They are black, they are black, they are black unto the ground. And the cry of Jerusalem is gone up. Meaning what? The people in the Bible, they are black. The Israelites, they are black. They are various shades of black and brown people. The same ones you call Hispanic, the same ones you call Negro, the same ones you call Latino, they're the same ones that are the Israelites of the Bible. So now, why am I bringing up this information as it relates to players getting burned? God said in the Bible that the children of Israel should not intermingle with the other nations, because these other nations would be placed as a snare to destroy Black, Latino, and Native Indigenous people. I'll give you an example. During the 1960s, you had a period of time called the Civil Rights Movement. You also had various movements all throughout the Americas and in Africa where people were fighting for their right to freedom. Okay? So what we're noticing, right, is that many people don't understand that the gospel is for the slaves that were oppressed. Because the Bible says that the good news is to set the captives free. Not everybody was led into captivity. Not everybody was enslaved. Only the children of Israel, Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, the people of the diaspora scattered in all places, they were the ones that ended up breaking God's commandments, and God ended up judging them. So now watch this. I'm going to read out of the Bible what happened to the Israelites, and we're going to use real life stories and experiences to show you the relationship between the people of the Bible and what happens today in modern day society. So listen close. This is Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 3. It says, neither shalt thou make marriages with them. Thy daughter thou shalt not give unto his son, nor his daughter shalt thou take unto thy son. This is going into what? Interracial marriages. Your pastor in the Christian church will never teach you this, but it's clearly written throughout the Bible. Watch this. God told the Israelites, neither shalt thou make marriages with them, meaning what? Black people was not supposed to integrate and marry the same race that oppressed them. The same thing with Hispanic people. The same thing with Native Indigenous people. The Bible says, neither shalt thou make marriages with them. Thy daughter thou shalt not give unto his son, nor his daughter shalt thou take unto thy son. Then God gives the reason why. Watch this. For they will, meaning the other nations that intermingle with the Israelites, for they will turn away thy son from following me, for they will turn away thy son from following me. We're reading Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 3 and verse 4. Someone asked the question, what chapter and what verse? We're currently reading Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 3 and verse 4. Okay, so it's showing us, right, that we were never meant to intermingle with the other nations because something was going to happen from us doing that. Watch this. For they will turn away thy son from following me, that they may serve other gods, other gods. So will the anger of the Lord be kindled against you and destroy thee suddenly. So what happened to God's chosen people? God's chosen people was told not to intermarry with other nations because the children that would be brought forth would be brought up to worship false gods. Let's use an example. You have your own culture and your customs. You were taught to celebrate Passover. You were taught to celebrate Hanukkah. You were taught to celebrate the Sabbath day. You were taught to celebrate the Feast of Purim. You had harvest festivals in Africa and in the Americas where you would bring corn and wine and oil and present it before the Most High. This was called the Feast of First Fruits. But then when you started to intermingle with other cultures, you started adopting their practices, worshiping their gods. This is why you see black people mixed up with so many different religions. You got people that are in Buddhism, you have Confucianism, you have Shintoism, you have, somebody said, why the white lady pick up? I'm going to tell you why. This is talking about players that got burned. We're going over interracial relations and how the children of God, black people, get caught up in various things dealing with interracial situations, and they get caught up. So the picture that you're looking at is called clickbait. You clicked on it and now you're in the room listening to the Bible. So that means the picture did exactly what it was intended to do. So what happens is people get caught up in this thing and they're intermarrying between nations when that was never the get-go. That was never set up at the beginning. Let's read the verse again. It says, neither shalt thou make marriages with them. Thy daughter thou shalt not give unto thy son, nor his daughter shalt thou take unto thy son, for they will turn away thy son from following me, that they may serve other gods. So now watch this. Think about how the children of Israel were given their own culture, their own practices. Think about how we came from Africa and we lived in indigenous America with all our own customs and cultural practices, meaning we never celebrated Santa Claus coming down your chimney at night with reindeer, the Christmas cookies and gifts under the Christmas tree. We never started with those things, okay? Our ancestors never knew about a fat man coming down your chimney bearing gifts. Nah, that was idolatry. That was paganism. We never knew about a Yule log. We never knew about these Nordic gods. We never dealt with those type of things, okay? So then what happened is once we started to integrate with Western culture, with my mic is cutting out possibly because I'm currently in an area with unequal signal. So thank you for letting me know that the mic is cutting in and out. So we never dealt with various Nordic cultures with the Yule log, the Christmas tree, the Santa Claus, and all of these things. We had our own practices. For example, in the Bible, Jesus walked in Solomon's porch during the Feast of Dedication. Watch this. Let me go to John chapter 4. John chapter 4, verse 22. I'm going to show you, and what we read in this Bible, many of the pastors have never gone over this. This is why it's always important to come into this podcast room with an open mind, so that way you can learn more information. Never be ashamed to learn more things. Never be ashamed to grow. A wise man will listen and gain more understanding. Okay, so watch this. In John chapter 4, verse 22, it says this, ye worship ye know not what. We know what we worship, for salvation is of the Jews. So now the Bible is showing us that we know what we worship, but the other nations in this society, they don't know what they worship. They don't know that Santa Claus is actually really the devil, that old Nick is really Satan. They don't know that. And when you show them that information, they're shocked. They're amazed. They're like, how could this be true? How could this be that Santa Claus wears red, the devil wears red, and that's literally the enemy, and the churches of men have caused people to worship Lucifer. And people think it's religion towards Christ, when that's not true. That's showing you that the world doesn't know what they worship. They just follow what these Christian pastors say, and they don't even know that they're serving other gods. Let's look at another example. Another example is the holiday called Easter. That was an ancient pagan practice of fertility deities known as Ashtaroth that the children of Israel were forced to worship in ancient times. They took that Babylonian custom and they related it to today, and they replaced Passover that we're supposed to celebrate in the Bible, and now they celebrate the Feast of Ishtar, which they call today Easter. Easter. So think about it, y'all. What does Easter rabbits, bunnies laying eggs have to do with the Bible? Nothing at all, because guess what? It's nowhere in the Bible. It's nowhere in the Bible, y'all. Okay? So what happened is they started to intermingle Eurocentric pagan customs into African Hebraic biblical texts to say this story right here with the manger and the baby coming in, and it was 3 wise men and all of that, and they came and bare gifts to this man, and it was December 25th. That's nowhere in the Bible. December 25th is not in the Bible. Now, the Messiah coming forth of the tribe of Judah, of the lineage of King David, that's true. But the whole story of a Yule log, and it was the first Christmas night, and, reindeer were flying in the air and all of this stuff, that's not in the Bible, y'all. So we have to learn how to separate false religion from the biblical text. The biblical text says something completely different than what's taught in the churches of men. I hope you guys understand that. So now, what did the God of the Bible tell the children of Israel in regards to interracial dating? Let's look at examples from today. You have a prominent musician, right? A rapper, a former rapper by the name of Dr. Dre. And there's many other countless musicians that are like this, right? Where they got involved with interracial relations, right? Dating other women outside of their nation. And what ended up happening is, years later, that same woman would file for divorce, take all their money, and give it back to her dad, her cousins, her brothers, her sisters, her family. Think about it. You had celebrities that are NFL players racking in millions of dollars. And what these coaches, what these football player owners, these NBA owners would do, they would have these lavish parties. And they would try to invite the most beautiful Caucasian woman that they could find just to tempt those guys to get into a relationship with them and marry them. Okay? And then years later, they end up suffering and struggling through divorce. Here's another example that Precept Me just wrote down, Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods is another example of a prominent melanated brother that got involved in a relationship, and that relationship ended up bad. Michael Jordan is another example. So write in the chat all the stories of prominent rich celebrities, actors, politicians, musicians, ballers, NFL players, baseballers that got involved with interracial relations, and it ended up being bad for them. Meaning what? They thought that the woman that they were dealing with looked beautiful like an angel, but in reality, they were like this. They were burning down the house. They were burning down the house. Okay? So somebody said, we know all this. So now, the question is, the person that wrote down, we know all this, did you know that this was in the Bible now? To not do this. Watch this. So we just read Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 3 and verse 4. Now we're going to go to Joshua 23, verse 12. Watch this. We're showing you the correlation between, here's another one. O.J. Simpson. That's a prime example. O.J. Simpson was in a relationship with a woman, I think her name was Nicole, okay? And this woman by the name of Nicole ended up being involved with another relationship with another man, and that ended up into a heated situation. And unfortunately, that woman was unalive because of it. Countless other stories happen where men or women get involved with these type of relationships and it ends up being to their detriment. I'll give you another example. There's a prominent black woman that got involved with the intermingling of the nations, and she called into a radio show and she was in distress, telling the people, every time I interact, I know what I mean by interact, you know, with this Caucasian male, he calls me a nigger wench. That's literally what he called her. Every time they had sex, he was smacking her in the face, punching her, and calling her a nigger wench. And then she called on the radio station and said, oh, what do you think I should do? She called on the radio station. The man is beating on her. The man is mistreating her. And she called in and said, what should I do? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? What should you know what you should do? Leave. If you're in a situation where you're unsafe, why would you stay? Okay. Many of these prominent individuals, that date outside their culture, they think that the grass is greener on the other side, and they end up finding out that it's not true and it's not good. They end up harming themselves instead of benefiting themselves. You see, watch this. In Proverbs chapter 14, verse 1, it says this. Listen close to what I'm about to read. It's going to match up exactly with the picture that we're looking at right now. We're going to read Proverbs chapter 14, verse 1. Listen close to this scripture. It says, every wise woman builds her house, but the foolish plucks it down with her own hands. Somebody said the Kardashians. Exactly. Think about how every brother that gets caught up with the Kardashians ends up in some sort of foolishness. You see, every wise woman builds her house, but the foolish plucks it down with her own hands. So this is the imagery that we have right here of this woman who's literally burning her own house down. Y'all see that? That's showing you that a lot of times people think that they'll get involved with these women thinking that it's a good thing, when in reality, no, it's not. Watch this. We're going to go to Joshua. We're going to go to Joshua and read something interesting that our forefather wrote down and described in regards to interracial relations. Did the God of the Bible say that it was sanctioned for the children of Israel to marry outside their nation? So now that you're learning this information, now it's time to change. Now it's time to wake up. Now it's time to apply the things that you're reading of in this Bible, because we walk by faith, not by sight. We know that the God of the Bible is true, so any believer is going to start following and listening to what God says in the Bible. Watch this. This is Joshua chapter 23, verse 10. Make sure y'all share the room with at least 10 people, so that way we can be aware of this information and we can help others to grow, to literally apply the Bible in their life today. Joshua chapter 23, verse 10. It says, one man of you shall chase 1,000, for the Lord your God, he it is that fights for you, as he has promised you. 11, take good heed, meaning pay attention thereof unto yourselves, that you love the Lord your God. So he was warning the people, take good heed that you love God with all your heart, mind, and soul. Okay? So watch this. It says, else, if ye do in any wise go back and cleave unto the remnant of those nations. What does it mean by cleave? Meaning attach yourselves to the remnant of those nations, even these that remain among you, and shall make marriages with them, marriages with them, and go in unto them, and they to you, know for a certainty that the Lord your God will no more drive out any of these nations from before you, but they shall be snares and traps unto you, and scourges in your sides, and thorns in your eyes, until ye perish from off this good land which the Lord your God has given you. Did this happen to the Israelites? You better believe it. Did this happen to the children of Israel? You better believe it. What happened was they intermingled with the other nations, and this is not just Caucasian people. I want you to make sure you understand this. The children of Israel were intermingling with all the nations, and that ended up being a detriment to them because they were told not to do it. Watch this. It says, they shall be snares and traps unto you. Meaning what? You think that you're dealing with something that's good, but in reality, it's a trap. Have you ever seen a rabbit or a gazelle get caught in a trap, like a bear trap or any trap that's set up to catch animals? There's something that looks enticing to them to make them want to engage in that activity. But in reality, that activity causes them to be disrupted. So just in the same way that a bird is caught in a snare is the same way where they used beautiful women from other nations and cultures to deceive the children of Israel into sin. Okay, watch this. When you consider what happened to many prominent leaders in the community during the civil rights era, you had a group called the Black Panther Party. In order for the government of the United States of America to disrupt these freedom fighters, what did they do? They started to sow discord among the people. They started to send fake letters between different party members to say this person was against this person. They started to insert Caucasian women with the agenda of the feminist movement to get into relationships with the men and to also convince the women to not be involved with the movement anymore. That's what they did. And then they started inserting drugs, crack, cocaine, marijuana into these groups. That's what the government, listen to what I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, that was a government program called Counterintelligence Program or COINTELPRO. They literally made a decision to say, in order to disrupt unity amongst people that were being oppressed, sprinkle some white women, sprinkle some cocaine, sprinkle some crack. That's what the governments did, y'all. Assassinate their leaders. That's what they did, y'all. This is a known fact. Everyone that's familiar with this history can attest to this information that I'm sharing. Okay? So now the God of the Bible says to not intermarry amongst these nations because, let's read it again, know for a certainty that the Lord your God will no more drive out any of these nations from before you. That's called divine protection. What happened to blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans was that once they started getting involved with the nations that was around them, the Canaanites, the Jebusites, the Philistines, the Idumeans, the Egyptians, their nation came to an end, y'all. That's what happened, y'all. Watch this. I'm going to show you why our kingdoms and empires in Africa came to an end. Watch this. I'm going to go to 1 Kings 11, one of the greatest black kings that we had on the earth was King Solomon. And guess what, ladies and gentlemen? You're not going to learn this in church. King Solomon is a black man. King Solomon was from the tribe of Judah. King Solomon described himself in his own writings as being a melanated person. Watch this. I'm going to prove that to you, and then we're going to go into the history of what happened in his kingdom. Let's go to the book of Song of Solomon. We're going to go to Song of Solomon, chapter 1, verse 5. It says, let's read verse 1 first. Verse 1 says this, the Song of Songs which is Solomon's, which means Solomon wrote the book of Song of Solomon. The book is literally called Song of Solomon, and pastors will read this and say, oh no, he didn't write that. I share the room with at least 10 people, y'all, to make sure that more people get this information. So it says in verse 5, I am black, but comely, O ye daughters of Jerusalem, as the tents of Kedar, as the curtains of Solomon. So Solomon himself, in his own writings, described himself as a melanated person. Why has your pastor, your priest, your prophet, your teacher, your apostle, your church elder ever go over this information with you? It's because they teach the Bible from a Eurocentric perspective when they teach us nothing but lies. I had a whole entire episode called Lies the Pastor Told Me, okay? Because when you read the Bible and compared it to religion, religion is not congruent. Modern religion does not teach the Bible correctly. So now let's find out what happened in the book of Kings in regard to how the nation of Israel fell as a mighty black empire on the earth. We're going to go to 1 Kings chapter 11, and we're going to read about the sin of Solomon. Watch this. This is 1 Kings chapter 11, verse 1. But King Solomon loved many strange women. But King Solomon loved many strange women, together with the daughter of Pharaoh, that's the black Egyptians, women of the Moabites, that's the Chinese, women of the Ammonites, that's the Japanese, women of the Edomites, that's the so-called Caucasian, or the Greco-Romans, the Zidonians, those are indigenous Africans, and Hittites, those are also indigenous Canaanite tribes, of the nations concerning which the Lord said unto the children of Israel, ye shall not go in unto them, neither shall they come in unto you, for surely they will turn away your heart after their gods. Solomon clave unto these in love. What is that telling us? That's telling us that King Solomon's idolatry and sin started off with the marrying of interracial relations. Because guess what? Every woman came from a different culture. The Greeks had their customs and practices. The Egyptians had their customs and practices. The Chinese had their practices. The Japanese had their practices. The indigenous Africans had their practices. But this black king named Solomon didn't care about that. He wanted to get dominion and power for himself by intermingling and marrying these women for political power. So now, this is the same thing that happens today with black men and black women, Hispanic men, Hispanic women, and Native Indigenous that think, you know what, to get up the corporate ladder, let me marry another nation. To make sure that I get wealthy, but guess what? They don't realize whenever you marry another culture, you take on their practices, their customs, their gods. So you go from celebrating Passover to now worshiping Easter bunnies and rabbits. You go from celebrating the Hanukkah festival called the Feast of Dedication to now saying Satan Claus and reindeer and all the other stuff involved with Luciferian doctrine. You go from loving your people as you love yourself to now celebrating orgies and calling it Valentine's Day. That's a day of fornication and orgies, y'all. Our ancestors never did that. But when they got involved with these false gods, they end up worshiping them. Instead of seeing your people as superheroes, now you worship Clark Kent. Now you worship Wonder Woman. Now you worship Spider-Man and Superman and Zeus and Shazam, Black Panther. Okay, all these quote-unquote superheroes that are on the earth, these are all false gods. These are all false gods. That's what happened to Solomon, y'all. That's what happened to, he says, it almost sounds like Solomon was a sellout. King Solomon tried to utilize his political ties to gain dominance for his empire, but that backfired on him. Watch this. And he had 700 wives. This is verse 3. We're reading 1 Kings chapter 11, verse 3. It says, and he had 700 wives, princesses, and 300 concubines. That's 1,000 women. And his wives turned away his heart. His wives turned away his heart. So his wives changed his mind from what he was doing before, from serving the God of the Bible to now following witchcraft and sorcery. Watch this. Let's go to Exodus chapter 34, verse 14. It says, for thou shalt worship no other God, for the Lord whose name is jealous is a jealous God. Lest thou make a covenant with the inhabitants of the land, and they go a whoring after their gods. What is a marriage, y'all? Isn't a marriage a covenant? Isn't it a contract? So what was happening? Our people were setting up covenants with these other nations, political ties, and that's what led to the downfall of the kingdom of Israel. If you don't realize it, this is why black people were led into slavery in all nations. Okay, watch this. For thou shalt worship no other God, for the Lord whose name is jealous is a jealous God. Lest thou make a covenant with the inhabitants of the land, and they go a whoring after their gods, and do sacrifice unto their gods. And one call thee, and thou eat of his sacrifice. Meaning what? You have relatives that call you right now, and you eat the sacrifice of Thanksgiving dinner. That's in relation to your own people getting unalived, y'all. You celebrate the destruction of your own race when you celebrate Thanksgiving Day. Literally, that's what you're doing. The turkey and the cranberry sauce literally represents human bodies being sacrificed, y'all. But y'all don't think that these people that started these holidays were Luciferians. You find out through conspiracy theory that most of these people that were engineers of the United States of America, they were all Freemasons and Luciferians. Look at the way the inscriptions on the Roman buildings are all with Roman architecture and Roman writing and hidden meanings that you don't know anything about. Nobody knows Novus Ordo Seclorum, New World Order, is right on the dollar bill. Why is there an Egyptian pyramid on the dollar bill? Why are there Egyptian types of architecture and Roman architecture in America? It's because these people were literally practicing the arts of Babylonian, Egyptian, and Greco-Roman mystery religions, y'all. They were hidden Satanists, y'all. That's why it's important when God tell you not to do something to pay attention. Watch this, verse 16. And thou take of their daughters unto thy sons, and their daughters go a whoring after their gods, and make thy sons go a whoring after their gods. Thou shalt not make unto thee a molten god. Thou shalt not make unto thee a molten god. Meaning what? Your Caesar Borgia, the white image of Jesus Christ, that's a false god. Christ is actually a descendant of melanated people. In places like Russia, all the iconography depicts Jesus, Mary, Moses as black people. But in America, they whitewash the images. In Rome, they whitewash the images. But the Pope will literally bow down to a black Mary and a black Jesus. The Pope will literally bow down to a black Mary and a black Jesus, but then tell you that Jesus and Mary and Joseph and Moses were all Caucasian with no Bible verse whatsoever. Russian iconography shows you the truth that everybody in the Bible was melanated, okay? Except for the Edomites and the Chinese and those nations. But watch this. Let's read this again in 1 Kings. 1 Kings chapter 11, verse 1. It says, but King Solomon loved many strange women, together with the daughter of Pharaoh, women of the Moabites. So you had the black pharaohs that were Nubians. Okay, these are the people of Sudan. Some of the Hamitic Cushites and Mizraim. That's Pharaoh. That's the Egyptians. Okay. Then it says of the Moabites. The Moabites represent the people of China today. Okay. The people of China are Moab, and then the people of Ammon are the Japanese. And the proof of that is there's various texts of scripture that tell you where the nations are and where they scatter to. For example, when you read in the Old Testament, you find out that the Babylonians took the Moabites and they scattered them to the east. To the east. So what group of people live far to the far east? That's the Japanese, the Chinese, the Koreans, those people. Okay. So now the Moabites, that's the Chinese, the Ammonites, that's the Japanese, the Edomites, those are the descendants of the Greco-Romans, the Europeans, the Zidonians, those are Canaanites, and the Hittites. So your pastor will never go over this information because they don't want you to know who's who in the Bible. They just want to keep you in delusion so you can keep giving them your tithe money and all of that. Okay, that's what they do. They deceive the masses and give you motivational speeches, but they don't tell you Bible history. They don't tell you cultural practices. They don't inform the people so they can make a better decision on how to walk in faith. Okay, faith comes by reading the Bible, y'all. The only way people always talk about, oh, I got faith, I got faith, but they don't read the Bible. The Bible says faith comes by hearing and hearing by the word of God. So the only way you could increase your faithfulness or your loyalty to God is to learn what the book says and apply what the book says. Okay. So now watch this. Let's go back to Deuteronomy chapter 7 and let's read the text again. Deuteronomy chapter 7. It says this, neither shalt thou make marriages with them. Thy daughter thou shalt not give unto his son, nor his daughter shalt thou take unto thy son, for they will turn away thy son from following me, that they may serve other gods. So will the anger of the Lord be kindled against you and destroy thee suddenly. So now, did this happen to King Solomon? Write 1 for yes. If it did not happen to King Solomon, write 2 for no. Write it in the chat. If this is what happened to King Solomon, write 1 for yes. If this is what did not happen to King Solomon, write 2 for no. All right, so we got 1, we got 1, we got 1. Okay, good. So that's showing us that a majority of the people that are in the chat understand that King Solomon broke this law. So now let's read on and let's find out if this came true. Did King Solomon go after other gods? Watch this. This is 1 Kings chapter 11, verse 4. It says, for it came to pass, meaning it happened in the future, when Solomon was old, that his wives turned away his heart after other gods. You see that? So the very thing that God warned the children of Israel not to do, they ended up breaking the commandment. Their king ended up getting married to a woman like this, and that woman burned his house down. That woman influenced him to do negatively. That's why this is a message to you men out here. Don't be weak over your woman. If your woman is trying to convince you to do something that's against the Bible, be strong and resist against it, y'all. Be strong and resist against it. I don't care how beautiful you are. You're not going to convince me to do something evil. Okay? That goes to show you how much influence women have over men. Be smart about who you deal with so that way your woman can't end up burning your house down and end up crying in divorce court talking about I made a mistake. Okay? Be very wise. It's always smart to be equally yoked with someone that has the same belief system with you. Okay? She has to honor you, not you honor her. The woman was made for man, not the other way around. Meaning Adam was formed first, then the woman was brought forth from the genetic material. And see, people read that story and they still don't get it. They'll read that Adam and Eve was formed, that God formed man, and then woman came from man, but they never put 2 and 2 together to be like, oh, how could they say, oh, that's a fairy tale. How could God make a woman from a rib? But you don't think that scientists right now are doing genetic manipulation with cells? You don't think God is more wiser than these politicians and scientists and witches and warlocks? God can take genetic material and reformulate it to form a different entity. That's what he did. He got the man. He took genetic material from the man and formulated a woman. That's why when you examine chromosomes and DNA, a man has a XY chromosome and a woman has a XX chromosome, which tells you that the man's Y chromosome is different from the woman, but the woman got her X chromosomes from the man. That literally proves to you that women came through men. Okay, but your pastor never going to tell you that. Your wicked scientists never going to tell you that. They're going to just tell you, oh, the man has X and the man has XY and the woman has XX chromosomes, but they never explain why. So now what happened to King Solomon? King Solomon, his wives turned his heart after other gods. Somebody said, no, men came from women. Okay, let's think about this, ladies and gentlemen. Who has the seed? Think about it. Who has the seed? The man. It's called sperm. Who has the egg? The woman has the egg. When you look on a microscope at sperm cells, this is all biblical based science. When you look at sperm cells, they're alive and they're moving around. When you examine the egg of a woman is still, meaning it has no life in it. It takes the man to insert the seed into the woman in order for that seed to multiply into a human being. Meaning what? The woman is just the incubator of that vessel. That's it. That's it. The baby grows inside the woman. The woman doesn't make it by herself, y'all. Can a woman lay down in the bed and just make a baby? No. A man has to insert those alive cells that are moving around and swimming in the uterine line to get to that egg to impregnate her to conceive. This is why women have menstrual cycles. That egg can no longer be furnished and it exits monthly. If it was alive, it would have stayed in the woman. If it was alive, you wouldn't have a birthing cycle called a menstruation. Okay? This is all biblical based science. In the age of information, ignorance is a choice. Okay? So now what happened to King Solomon? King Solomon ended up intermarrying with other nations of people, and these women caused him to serve other gods, other gods, other gods, other gods. Somebody said, I'm saying biblically that men and women are equal. All right, I want you to fly over here to Africa right now and challenge me in an arm wrestle and see if men and women are equal. Stop being simple, man. When I shake your hand, I could literally crush it if I shook it with all my might. Men and women are not equal. That's a fantasy. That's just things that people say in Western culture to make you feel good. There is no equality in society, y'all. Go ask your grandmother, go ask your grandpappy, ask the older generation, is there a such thing as equality? No, nothing is equal, y'all. There's a up, there's a down, there's a left, there's a right, there's women, there's men. Men are physically stronger and able to endure more things. Okay. In the Bible, I'm telling you that the Bible says this. The Bible tells you that man was made first, then women. Watch this, watch this, watch this. I'm going to use the commenter as a learning lesson for the people that are not familiar with the Bible. Because someone will say, oh, the Bible says this, but they don't give a scripture. Now, what I'm going to do is build up your faith in God by reading to you a scripture, because our faith is not made in the vain opinions of men. Watch this. This is Genesis chapter 3, verse 16. Unto the woman he said, I will greatly multiply thy sorrow and thy conception. Conception is when you start to bring forth babies. In sorrow thou shalt bring forth children, and thy desire shall be to thy husband, and he shall rule over thee. So Adam was made to rule over his family. That's why Adam was the head of his household. That's why Adam was the king of the kingdom. Guess what? There is no such thing as a queendom. Get feminism out of your head. Get Eurocentric delusionalism out of your head. There's no queendom. It's always a kingdom. That's why when you pray, you say, Our Father who art in heaven, holy is your name. You don't say our mother, God, Christ, man, women, children. That's the order of God. A lot of people in society are out of order. 1 Kings chapter 11, verse 5. What happened to King Solomon? Verse 4. For it came to pass when Solomon was old that his wives turned away his heart after other gods, and his heart was not perfect with the Lord his God, as was the heart of David his father. So you know how in the Christian church they'll tell you, oh, can't nobody be perfect? Nobody's perfect. That's a lie, y'all. That's a lie. You can strive to be a better person. You can strive to be a righteous person. You could strive for perfection. Stop trying to be mediocre. Stop trying to be like everybody else. Okay? The Bible says to strive for perfection, not to be the same. You were made to be above all nations of the earth. But what happened in the good old United States of America, women follow and men follow the beast, the woman riding the beast, and that beast is the eagle. You worship the eagle. That's why the eagle is on the back of your dollar bill. When you read the Bible, there's a woman riding a beast, a dragon, and that dragon is the eagle. That dragon is the eagle. So they follow after false ideologies, and they think that their ideology is smarter than the Bible, when that's not true. Okay? The woman in red is Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. That's the United States of America that indoctrinated its people with false religion. Watch this. Verse 5. For Solomon went after Ashtaroth, the goddess of the Zidonians, and after Milcom, the abomination of the Ammonites. Y'all, literally, he's telling you that Solomon, King Solomon, started worshiping the mother goddesses. Solomon started worshiping Ashtaroth, a false pagan god of the African Zidonians, who we call today Easter. Let me make it plain for you. King Solomon started worshiping Diana, aka Wonder Woman. That's what he was doing, y'all. That's what King Solomon was doing. He was worshiping Wonder Woman, y'all. Okay, the same deity, Ashtaroth, Easter, is the same thing that we see today called Wonder Woman. Y'all know all y'all superheroes is made off of Greek and Roman gods, right? Y'all know y'all literally go to watch Marvel characters and DC characters, and these are all demons, right? You do realize that the good guys are actually the bad guys, right? Think about it, y'all. Really dig deep down and think about it. Superman gets his power from the sun. That's Ra. Remember Superman Gold? That's Ra. Doesn't the Egyptians have a sun god called Ra? R-A? So you're literally worshiping Babylonian and Egyptian deities. Okay? Somebody said Solomon is the Lord of the Rings. You must have read Testament of Solomon. That's probably why you're reading that, why you're making that comment. So we're seeing here that the sin of Solomon was that he married these women, and these women caused him to go off into idolatry. Listen close. For Solomon went after Ashtaroth, the goddess of the Zidonians, and after Milcom or Molech, the abomination of the Ammonites. So now, literally in Japan and China right now, they have a false deity that they worship. That's literally a penis. You could type it in on Google. Do the Japanese and Chinese worship a rod? And you will see them have parades with a giant rod where they're floating it around throughout the city, y'all. You can't make this stuff up. They worship Molech. Okay. Somebody said the X-Men cartoon was based on racial tensions at that time. Yes, that's true. However, they used the name of false deities that were from ancient other cultures like the Babylonians and the Egyptians and integrated it. For example, Storm was a representation of an African deity. Y'all remember the X-Men Apocalypse movie? In X-Men Apocalypse, you had a man by the name of Apocalypse, and in the movie, he was saying, I'm called various deities. I'm called various gods. They call me Jehovah. They call me Yahweh. They call me Anubis. They call me this, that, and the third, right? That's what he was doing, right? That was showing you that in these movies, the bad guy was actually the good guy, and the good guys were fighting against the bad guy to defeat the bad guy. And they mentally programmed you and indoctrinated you to see that which was good to be that which is bad. Meaning, instead of Christ the Savior coming in to save his people and delivering them, they'll depict Christ as an evil alien coming to destroy humanity, and superheroes have to come up to stop him. That's what they did, y'all. Every movie has the same script. Every movie has the same script. Think about it. You had in Marvel characters a character named Thanos. Thanos is a representation of Christ. Christ is going to come on the earth and he's going to unalive a whole bunch of people that's wicked. But the Marvel characters, the superheroes, they're coming to fight against Christ with his angels that are UFOs with wheels within the wheels, just like you saw in that Marvel movie. You saw Spider-Man jump up on that wheel within a wheel, and showing you that they stole that information from the Bible. And they made Thanos the bad guy, meaning they made Christ the evildoer coming from the heavens to save the people. They made him wicked, and they made the good guys, aka the Marvel superheroes, the false deities like Thor, the god of storms, like what's the other one? Iron Man, that's Hephaestus. Like Batman, Superman, Spider-Man, all of these different deities, these Marvel characters, these DC characters, they're all false gods. They're all false gods. Somebody said, how is unaliving that many people good ever? How? I'm going to explain it to you. The Bible is like a script. When you read the Bible, there are people that were created to be good guys, and there were people that were created to be bad guys. Guess what? The bad guys are ruling the earth today. We call them principalities and powers and judges and magistrates, kings and potentates, popes, and they're the ones that's going around kidnapping children and having networks all over the world where they're trafficking children. They're the ones that have perpetuated evil across the earth, fomenting wars, fomenting wickedness. And guess what? This is why humanity needs a savior. You need a deliverer because you don't even realize that you're being oppressed. You think this is normal, going and working 9 to 5 and working your entire life to pay for a property that you should just pay with one payment and own it. No house in the world should cost more than $1,000. You do realize that, right? Back in the day, your ancestors would pay $100 for a place to live in. And that was it. They owned the property. You don't think you're being oppressed? Okay, keep thinking that. Keep thinking that. Somebody said it's our land. So a lot of people don't realize that the way that, let's just keep reading the Bible, because if I have to keep explaining comments, and it's going to take me 2-3 hours explaining comments to people. Let's keep reading. This is 1 Kings chapter 11, verse 6. And Solomon did evil in the sight of the Lord, and went not fully after the Lord, as did David his father. Then did Solomon build a high place for Chemosh, the abomination of Moab, in the hill that is before Jerusalem, and for Moloch, the abomination of the children of Ammon. So Moloch is the same thing as Milcom. Chemosh is the same thing as Milcom, same deity. And likewise did he for all his wives, which burnt incense and sacrifice unto their gods. So now notice, in Islam, they burn incense. In Catholicism, they burn incense. In Judaism, they burn incense. In Chinese religions, when they set up their shrines, they burn incense. When Hindus set up their shrines to Vishnu and to Brahma, they burn incense. I'm showing you that nothing is new under the sun. The same pagan practices of satanic worship is practiced all over the earth today. Okay? When you go to your movie theaters and give honor and worship to those superheroes, you literally are giving honor and worship to false deities. Okay? They cause you to worship Santa Claus, Lupercalia, which is Valentine's Day, Saturnalia, which is Christmas. A lot of pagan festivals y'all participate in, and you think it's godly when it's not. Watch this. I'm going to show you out of the Bible what evil the Bible is saying not to do and how God judged King Solomon because of it. Watch this. Verse 11. Wherefore the Lord said unto Solomon, for as much as this is done in thee, that thou hast not kept my covenant and my statutes, which I commanded thee, I will surely rend the kingdom from thee and will give it to thy servant. Y'all see that? So what happened to the children of Israel? The children of Israel intermarried amongst Caucasian women, intermarried amongst Chinese women, intermarried amongst Japanese women, intermarried between indigenous African women, and they in turn was judged by God. Their entire empire fell because of worshiping of other gods. The worshiping of other gods was a direct result of interracial relations, y'all. Y'all understand that? So now let's listen to the first enemy that God sent to go against the children of Israel. Watch this. And the Lord stirred up an adversary unto Solomon, Hadad the Edomite. Hadad the Edomite, he was of the king's seed. Y'all see that? So the first enemy that God set up against the children of Israel was the descendant of the Greco-Romans, the Idumeans, the Edomites. These are the people of Herod. Y'all remember when Herod was trying to unalive all the children of Israel 2 years old and under? Herod was an Edomite. He was a Roman citizen. Okay. When you remember the story of Haman in the book of Esther, where Haman was trying to unalive all the children of Israel by plotting with the Persians to unalive them, right? That's showing you that the first enemy sent against black people when they're not following God's laws are the descendants of the Greco-Romans. This is why you see whenever black men were trying to intermarry amongst the Edomite nations in America, what ended up happening? They ended up being strange fruit on trees, y'all, because they worshiped false gods. They worshiped false gods. They worshiped false deities. So our forefathers sinned against the Most High, and they used what was ordained for the Most High, the frankincense, the myrrh, the incense, and now they taught all the other nations to use it in service to false gods. That's what they did. So instead of reserving the temple service for the creator of all things, now they give it to Caesar Borgia, which is the Caucasian image of Jesus. Now they give it to Islam with the Kaaba stone. Now they give it to Buddha and Krishna. Now they give it to African spiritualism and voodoo. That's why you can scroll through TikTok right now and see people worship the sun, the moon, the stars, tarot cards, psychics, necromancy, witchcraft. They're doing the same sin that Solomon was doing, y'all. The same evil that Solomon was doing, people are doing today right now on TikTok. I'm telling you, y'all, There's nothing new under the sun. The Bible helps to deprogram the mind from what's been going on in today's society. Because people think astrology is normal. People think witchcraft is normal. They'll go and sit and watch Harry Potter movies and they say, oh, that's nice, magic, and it's for kids. They've carefully packaged evil. Listen to what I'm telling you, y'all. They carefully packaged evil and made it delightful for you, y'all. They made it where you are now joyful in seeing witches and warlocks. They participate in human deletion, right? You know that's what's going on, right? Watch this. I'm going to show you another example. We're going to go to one of our forefathers, our ancestors, by the name of Manasseh and see what sin he did. Did he follow King Solomon in the exact sins that Solomon was doing? You better believe it. Watch this. Manasseh was 12 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 50 and 5 years in Jerusalem. But he did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord, like unto the abominations of the heathen, when the Lord had cast out before the children of Israel. So he started doing the same exact practices, worshiping Molech, worshiping Chemosh, worshiping Ashtaroth, worshiping Baal. Let me make it plain for y'all today. Baal is the same God worshipped in Christianity and Islam. Islam calls it Ba'Allah. Ba'Allah is the same deity that they worshipped back then. Ba'Allah is the same as Baal-zebub, Beelzebub. Y'all understand that? Ashtaroth was the consort of Baal. You call it Easter today in Christianity, which is showing you that the pagan deities of ancient times have been morphed into the modern day religions. The only way to deprogram the mind is to read the Bible and have discernment on what these things are today. Watch this. Verse 6. And he caused his children to pass through the fire in the valley of the son of Hinnom. Y'all call that today abortions. That's what y'all call that today. Also, he observed times. Y'all call that today birthdays, holidays, astrology, horoscopes. Those are observations of times, meaning using time to try to foretell the future, using divination to try to foretell the future. This is why you go into a Chinese store and you say, hey, let me get some Chinese crackers for fortune telling. Okay. Somebody said the Bible is fiction. That's not true. Most people that say that, they've never read the Bible. You have never read. This is like going to a college professor, learning about algebra, learning about science, learning about history, and saying, oh, that's fake. You've never read it. Just sit down and learn. That's all you could do. Sit down in class, learn new information that you've never heard before with an open mind. That way you could remove yourself from the delusion that has been taught on the earth. That's the only way you could learn. If I, as a teacher, didn't have an open mind to listen, I wouldn't have the information that I've been studying for well over a decade to present on this podcast today. Meaning I've researched, I've studied, I ask questions. Where did Christmas come from? Oh, it's a Babylonian deity named Tammuz. It started in Babylon, it got to Egypt, and then it transferred to the Roman pagan celebration known as Saturnalia. I research things. And then I say, does this match up with what we're reading in the Bible? No, it does not. Guess what? When you read the Bible, it actually condemns holidays. So who's correct? The people that are following the traditions of men, or the people that are researching the information and making it palatable for you to understand? And then once you hear this information, you're like, well, I never heard that before. It's because you don't research. You don't read books. You don't look up articles. All you do is type stuff on Google. That's what you do. Listen, I have books upon books upon books where I've researched these things. Okay, watch this. What was it that King Manasseh was doing, our forefather, which was against the God of the Bible? Watch this. And he caused his children to pass through the fire. That's abortions today. In the valley of the son of Hinnom. Also, he observed times and used enchantments and used witchcraft. So now let's ask a question. Y'all, see, every time I do a TikTok live, that's when my phone overheats. I'm going to be back. I'm going to make another TikTok live. I'll be back in just a moment. I'm going to close this and be back. I'm going to make another one.